Grab your cup. Have you ever had the experience that, like, you don't really know who you are? You're wondering who you are. You're wondering how your life got to the place that it got to. There's like a disconnect. Sometimes it's deep enough that we even call it like a soul fracture. We're fractured, or there's a gap between who we're being in our life and how we're living our life and our connection to our own soul. And that happens because of experiences that we've had that have never been resolved. So I'm going to use the word trauma. I know it's used a lot these days, but I'm going to use the word trauma and I'm going to define it for you. Trauma is any experience that is big enough in the moment that it happens, when we're experiencing it, to feel overwhelming, to have a response, a stress response, and then it changes us in how we see ourselves and how we see other people and the world. So if there's an experience where, I don't know, 5 years old, we're left out of a birthday party that everybody else in our kindergarten class got invited to. It's not that that's such a terrible thing, but as a 5-year-old, that experience could feel overwhelming enough, could feel. For some people, maybe it wouldn't, but for some people it would. And in that moment, decide about ourselves. Nobody likes me. And then how I relate to myself, how I put myself out in the world, and how I relate to other people and see life itself would be shifted and altered. And when we have a decision like that, a perception, nobody likes me, this is just an example, right? But when we have something like that, a perception and a decision, that starts to create a fracture within ourselves, because our soul knows that we are love. We come from love. We are love. We want to be loved. We're here to love. I think bottom line, that's the frequency that connects us all. That's the frequency that heals our physical body. That's the frequency that heals relationships. But we start to disconnect from that, and we disconnect from our soul. That's the soul fracture. So experiences that have been traumatic, and certainly there are many, many worse ones than that example. I purposely used a pretty regular, normal experience that a lot of us have had some version of, just to show you that it can have that impact. Who it has that impact for really depends on the kind of nurturing that a person has had, the amount of stress that they live under. So if a 5-year-old is in a very chaotic household, there's fighting, there's stress, that 5-year-old may not feel very sure of themselves, versus another child who's had a lot of nurturing, has felt really listened to, has been able to express themselves. Then something like that happens and it's not as big a deal. So it really depends on what we've had going on, how much stress we hold, and how well we feel able to move through different experiences. And certainly the more difficult the experience, the bigger the possible impact. But there's definitely a connection between how well you feel that you're living your life, meaning you feel you're on purpose, you feel certain of yourself, you trust yourself with your decisions, you trust yourself and your inner guidance, or not. So there's a connection between trauma and your soul. And unresolved trauma can cause a soul fracture that we can absolutely heal from, but that can be the disconnect that you feel in your life, or why certain patterns in your life keep showing up, that soul fracture. Unresolved trauma will also affect your health, because that part that's unresolved stays in your body, and over time that will affect how your body handles anything. Illnesses, viruses, bacteria, how well your body can rest when it needs to rest, all of that gets affected, especially when your experiences cause you to keep coping in a certain way, keep trying to be liked because you believe you're not, for example. So if that sounds familiar to you, if you've had the experience of feeling disconnected from yourself, or like you're in your life and you're not sure of your purpose, or you're just not happy, like there's not a sense of joy, because joy should be a place that we can live our lives from, even when difficult things happen. If that's the case for you, there's a workshop that I'm running tomorrow night, Wednesday, that I'm going to put the link here if you want to come and attend that workshop. We're going to explore the trauma, soul, and health connection, and how what you're experiencing in your life today could really be the result of past experiences that didn't get resolved in the best way, so that your health issues and a fracture in your soul is what you're experiencing. So if that sounds like, I can resonate with that, definitely click the link. Anybody who registers will receive the replay. So even if you can't be there live, although being there live is always the best option, because you get to participate in the conversation, you get to ask questions, you get to be there all the way till the end if you can make it, and oftentimes there's really good stuff at the end that you don't want to miss. So try to be there live, but if not, you'll get the replay, okay? The Trauma, Soul, Health Connection. See you there.